Chapter 11, Back to School. Prior to my accident, I taught mathematics in a junior high school. Now, more than 18 months after falling on my head and losing the use of most of my body, I once again encountered a new group of young teenagers. I had anticipated the first day of school more than 15 times before, but the beginning of this school year was different. Miraculously, I had regained most of the use of my arms. My hands worked a little, the right a bit better than the left. I could move the toes slightly on both feet, but essentially I was still paralyzed below my chest. I recovered feeling and sensation everywhere, though it wasn't entirely normal. I could feel touch and pressure, but hot, cold, and sharp dull didn't register below my chest and on portions of my arms and hands. My accident caused what's known as an incomplete spinal cord injury, meaning my spinal cord wasn't severed. Instead, bruising damaged the spinal nerves, probably caused by swelling in the minutes and hours after the injury. I greeted this new group of youngsters with a voice that was much stronger than the hoarse whisper created during the spinal fusion. Two amazing surgical procedures helped my vocal cords function, but my voice still wasn't normal. Would I be able to communicate with a room full of energetic adolescents? I sat in my wheelchair. How would kids react to a teacher who couldn't stand? I'd learned the basics of life with paralysis, and now came the next test in reconstructing my life. Could I return to work? Could I still manage a classroom? Since the injury, I had been almost completely isolated in controlled environments at home, in the hospital, and in therapy clinics. Could I adapt successfully in this area of the real world? I was terrified. Could I possibly summon the energy required to do all of this? Lesson planning, conducting classes, grading, and the myriad of small tasks that comprise my profession. Just a few short months ago, I couldn't turn over in bed by myself. Now this group of fresh young faces looked to me for direction, as though I had any clue how to be their teacher. I wondered if they could see the fear as I struggled to keep my emotions under control and pretended I knew what to do. I felt their uneasiness. They got much quieter than normal as they entered the room, sharing my uncertainty about what to expect. Who is this guy? What's with the wheelchair? Does he know what he's doing? What will this class be like? Some of the kids knew the story, but for most of them this was just the first day of school, and I was another teacher to figure out. They were more concerned with who sat next to them and how much homework their new math class would require than with how I ended up in this wheelchair. The bell signaled the start of the first class, and I was supposed to do something. I had rehearsed this moment over and over, sitting alone in this familiar classroom, but now I was really unsure. The whole idea was crazy. I was not nearly ready. How did I let my principal talk me into thinking I could pull off this act? Yeah, I climbed a hill more than a year ago, but this was different. They all waited, staring at me. I had to get class started, but suddenly my plans deserted me. What should I do first? Call roll, that's a safe way to start. 30 pair of eyes stared as I struggled self-consciously to pick up a pen and fumbled to mark the attendance sheet. Now we knew who was here, and I gave the kids an activity to complete. They welcomed the assignment, grateful for a diversion from the unspoken questions circling the room. Students worked together, and I began moving among them, rolling uncertainly between desks, acting like it was just another first day, while the fear knotted my stomach. Should I say something about the chair and about my injury? How long could we pretend there's really nothing different about this initial class? One boy looked up as I passed his desk. In the honest, unassuming manner only a 13-year-old could manage, he announced, "I think I'm going to like being in your class." "Oh yeah? Why is that?" "Because," he said with a grin, "I hate it when teachers stand and look over my shoulder." Right then I knew. As I chuckled and shook my head at his little joke, I knew it was going to be all right. I moved on, commenting a little now on student work, making small talk. The atmosphere in the room lightened a bit, students talking to each other and to me, the first day of the new school year underway. Somehow, everything was going to be okay. I should remember that young man's name. I don't, but I think about him every year as I greet another new group of students. Each year for 19 years now, I've wondered a bit about the reaction of each new group to a wheelchair, and the teacher who writes in what we affectionately refer to as Chinese hieroglyphics. Every year I remember that first day, the uncertainty, the uneasy quiet, and the silly one-liner that dissolved my fear and eased the tension. Each year as I prepare for a fresh collection of new faces, I chuckle to myself, knowing it'll all be okay somehow. I've learned to adapt. Technology helped, along with a bit of specially designed furniture and some experience with what's effective. I've learned that, just like everybody else, I can take advantage of the many things I do well, and that I have to find ways to overcome weaknesses. I've learned, after a lot of pain and struggle, to enjoy my own corny sense of humor, to laugh at myself, and to take it all a little less seriously. That young man's joke helped me realize it's better to chuckle than to complain. I've learned that my students, like most other folks, see a person more than they see a person in a wheelchair. I've learned that my kids, like most people, care a lot more about how they're treated than whether I stand or sit. I smiled as I recalled an event from earlier that morning, one of many seemingly small memories that form the foundation of this life I've managed to reconstruct. I sat in my empty classroom, overwhelmed by uncertainty, wishing I could run away, certain that this was too much to expect. As I sought an escape from the insanity, a young lady appeared in the doorway. "Hi, I'm Megan," she announced as she strolled boldly into the room. I knew this girl. She was my friend Liz's daughter, a new 7th grader at our school. "Hi, Megan. What can I do for you?" "I want to know if I can get you a cup of coffee." Liz knew I liked coffee in the morning, but the staff lounge was quite a distance from my room, and up a ramp that was still too steep for my stick arms. Coffee had been the farthest thing from my mind as I tried to calm my fear that morning. "Yeah, that would be really nice." "Okay." She opened the cabinet where my cups had been stored since the accident, grabbed one, and headed out the door. In a few minutes she was back, and I had my customary morning coffee. One small piece of normal had materialized in the midst of the chaos, something familiar in this strange new world. "Thanks, Megan. This was really nice of you." "You're welcome," she smiled. "See you tomorrow morning." I saw her the next morning and every morning for the next 3 years. Megan took her self-appointed job seriously. For 3 years she spilled coffee on her shoes while descending a short flight of stairs. Whenever she was absent, she made sure her mom remembered to get my coffee. And when she finally left for high school, she trained her little brother Aaron to take over for the next 3 years. How remarkable that such a small act of kindness meant so much as I tried to find my bearings and adapt to all that was so new and different. And even more amazing that now, 19 years later, I again greet Megan each morning as she unlocks the door that joins my classroom to the one in which she teaches. Who could have guessed that the little girl who eased my fear all those years ago by greeting me each morning with a smile and a cup of coffee would become a colleague and fellow math teacher? I don't even make her fetch coffee anymore. She'd probably still spill it on her shoes. Each year a new young person volunteers for the honored position of Mr. D's Coffee Kid. 19 new groups of students. I've helped them learn a bit of math, and they've helped me to get my life back. I am quite sure that I got the better end of the deal.